Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Big Time Nerd, and I'm Austin, and I'm here today with my guest, Cameron, my brother. Welcome, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's kind of fun. This is a little fun project that with this podcast itself, we've talked about doing this for a little while.
Yeah.
Started messing around earlier this week with some fun things to show off today. And tell me a little bit about yourself, like what you do, like for everyone else's sake, like what you do with coding and stuff like that.
So I am a master's student right now, so a graduate student. My degree right now it's called computational analytics, making the change over to computer science, and I am doing an online master's program through Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and it's a pretty intense program. Like it's like a really, really intense.
Yeah.
A lot of cool places you can go and do that with. Honestly, computer science is really involved. AI is really involved.
Yeah.
Analytics are really involved. A lot more than I think most people recognize.
Yeah, a lot more math than I think I recognized before. I come from a funny background, more of a design-oriented and creative background.
Yeah.
And then kind of just put in the legwork to, after my undergrad, to do a more STEM-focused master's program. So far it's been good. A lot of math though. Yeah, I'm
Gotta love that math.
kind of pushing towards the machine learning emphasis. So lots of math, way more stats and calculus and linear algebra than I ever anticipated. Probably would have done a little things differently if I knew how much of that I was going to be doing.
Oh man, you know what though? It's crazy how much, like, in high school they tell you or you think, I'm never going to use this.
I know, it's so true. Yeah, you do. You use it. It depends, right?
Well, it depends. We both did the ad program at BYU. You
Yeah.
get through that program. Honestly, they probably should have a little bit more stats and stuff in there to kind of help you along.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we could do a whole nother podcast, right, on how the whole advertising landscape is changing and how the industry is changing.
Totally.
But I agree. I think that if I were in charge of that program and, marketing in general, I think I'd push for a lot more stats and math classes because
it's so useful.
It's so useful.
And oh man, yeah, that's a rabbit hole that we need to go down, but
another time.
Not yet.
Another time.
Stay tuned. That will come.
Yep.
Today though, we're going to talk about another way you can apply that same kind of math, and that's with really neural networks, what would you call it? Generation?
Generative AI, I think is kind of what they call it. And the good thing is that the math is kind of taken care of for us, which is nice.
Honestly,
and I think we'll talk more about that. But it's way more simple. There are a lot of smart people in this world, and so many people that have dedicated so much time to free resources, which I think is amazing, very admirable.
Oh, totally. And there's so much free stuff out there that you can use. Honestly, if you know a little bit of code, you can get started super easily. I was shocked at just how easy it was to get started.
Yeah.
And we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. We haven't even told everybody what we're talking about yet.
Maybe we should circle back a little bit. And
while you're doing that, I'm actually going to set up my screen capture so that I can show a little bit what we're talking about.
Perfect. Yeah. Austin talked a little bit about it, but we're going to be mainly focusing on talking about generative AI, generative art. So if you're familiar with Midjourney, is a big one in the news these days. Dolly, I think is what it's called, right?
Yeah, that's the big one. I think people really...
The big free one.
Well, that's like the text prompt to image kind of AI.
Yeah, exactly. And there's GPT-3, which is the model, I believe, that's the OpenAI model that most of these generative engines use and it's open source, I believe. Still pretty abstract to deal with it on your own, from what I understand. I mean, I guess I haven't really looked into it, but there's a lot of people that have done things to kind of abstract the difficulty away from it.
Not really gatekeeping per se in it, but there's
definitely not.
It's tricky.
It's just a lot. You just have to kind of have the knowledge to be able to dive in deep on your own. But there's a lot of free tools that people have made that you can play around with it, which is really cool. But yeah, I mean, generative art's been massive recently. If you are into tech news, TechCrunch, The Verge, a lot of people have talked about it. There's a lot of cool stuff that people have done. There's a lot of very strange things that have come out of generative AI, and a lot of really fun stuff. I mean, I think we could probably make a whole episode about just finding really weird stuff that generative AI has made. Good. I know people have and just totally aside from all the ethical dilemmas behind generative AI, but people have put in stuff where it's like the most beautiful human, and it just returns like some very strange, like anatomically, like anatomy speaking, like in terms of anatomy, like not even a real human type of thing.
So I got my screen recording right now, so maybe I should look this up. You're saying like the perfect human, but like is open AI. What was it again? It was.
I think people just like put in the perfect human into like, or the most beautiful human or something into like a Mid-Journey prompt or like a Dolly, and it just comes back with kind of like some scary like alien type stuff. So maybe, I don't know, maybe AI knows more than we do, but there's been some really funny stuff to come out of it.
Medium 3 AI illustrate the most beautiful woman in the world.
These are a lot more normal than the ones I saw.
Why does it say portrait photographed by Annie Leibovitz? 35mm 1.8.
Interesting.
Her eyes though, man, like that's like, they're bright, but like it looks like stars in there.
That's probably like a model too, where people like put in definitely it's got to be Michelle Pfeiffer. And I wouldn't anyway. Yeah. I disagree. AI is all I'm saying.
Those eyes, it gets all of it in some of these down except for the eyes.
Yeah. Well, I guess the eyes are the window to the soul, and I guess AI just cannot get there yet. Anyway, we digress. We might have to cut some of this out. But back to generative art. There's a lot of good generative art out there.
There's a
lot of really bad generative art. You have to go through the bad to get to the good with these AI models. They continue to get better.
They do, but
there is some like kind of direction that us as humans have to give it, right? And train. I think studying machine learning. Yeah. The more you study machine learning, the more you realize that computers are really stupid. And humans are also stupid, but we have to anyway, it's just interesting how you have to really, really like push in the right direction. And neural networks and things are really amazing because they do a lot of things on their own. And I don't understand how they work. But they're
trained on data. I mean, these are things that like we've had to actually design and build. They're purpose built. I think people are all. Let's like step back like 30,000 feet. People look over AI and they think, okay, this is this really scary machine that's going to take over the world. And yes, it's taking over the world in the same way webkins took over the world of elementary schools in the U.S. back in 2003.
And if that's the way they're taking over the world, then I'm totally down for it because I love webkins.
But maybe that's a bad example. Like maybe it's kind of the way how everybody had to have their Crocs back in the day.
Well, AI is totally a buzzword too. Like it
is. But what I'm saying is like it's something that is there. People misunderstand it.
Yeah,
like they're thinking that it's
true.
all general AI, which is the idea of this self-conscious or not self-conscious, but maybe that's the word, like a consciousness, like a digital consciousness, and
something that's sentient.
Yeah, sentience. Thank you. It's not sentient though.
I agree, and I think
it's just recognizing patterns and applying those algorithms that it's developed on its own little black box to make other things like it. At least with generative AI and stuff.
I think generative AI is definitely more of a black box approach to machine learning and AI. But anyway, there's a lot of really cool stuff that people are doing with it, like a lot of storyboarding that I've seen with generative AI where people put in like a prompt or maybe some song lyrics and then it creates like a cool background or cool album art, something like that. Lots of really cool things. I don't think it's ever going to replace people, obviously. There's no need to worry about that, but it's doing some really cool stuff. Totally. And Austin and I are both really into music. Like we could probably have podcasts talking about different music types.
There will be podcasts in future episodes talking about music.
We like to dabble. I wouldn't say compose music, but maybe just play around with like sampling music.
That's probably more your thing. Like I'm more of like, I love consuming music. I've never been much of like a musician, but like you actually, that's your world.
But anyway, we both kind of enjoy that realm. And so we were really interested in generative AI for the purposes of creating music. There's not a lot of stuff out there, actually, believe it or not, on that. There's some really cool things that are happening. One of them is a model from OpenAI called Jukebox AI. And we found it this past week and we wanted to play around with it. And so we did a lot of research about like ways that we can interact with it. If it was even free. Turns out you can interact with it for free.
Right.
There are some limitations because you'll see if you go to Jukebox AI or OpenAI's website and look for Jukebox AI, they have some really amazing
Let me pull it up
songs. Yeah, very impressive. Like one of them is one that a computer made that was Frank Sinatra in the style of pop, is what it was, right?
Oh, I gotta pull that up.
And the lyrics are amazing. It was
I don't
like,
think I'll get a copyright strike on something that's like that. Let's hope not.
yeah, it was incredible. It was like very funny. The lyrics. Do you have the lyrics pulled up? I don't know if
I'm pulling up the curated samples. Yes. So this one's classic pop in the style of Frank Sinatra. So let's turn up the volume.
Yeah,
here.
maybe let's just play the first few seconds of that.
And they have on the just beautiful lyrics here.
I love that like dissonance.
And it's Christmas time, so you know what that means.
You know.
Christmas time, and you know what that means. Yeah. Hot tub time.
Hot tub time. Yeah. Yeah. That's my favorite classic Christmas song. Frank Sinatra's Hot Tub Time. It's Christmas time and you know what that means. It's hot tub time. But I mean, it's pretty amazing, honestly, if you think about it. Like,
yeah,
that is Frank Sinatra. It sounds like Frank Sinatra. I mean,
it does. And
Or
there's some moments in there
maybe
where
like a drunk cousin of Frank Sinatra is what it sounds like. But that's pretty amazing that a computer created that with some guidance.
it is. And it's it is bizarro, but yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, and it's its own thing.
Like there's just some strange swing, kind of like a little bit of dissonance.
It has an odd feel to it.
It does have an odd feel, but it's really cool. But anyway, we found that and we heard it and we were like, we should create stuff like this. This is really cool, and we gotta figure out how to do this. So we did a lot of research
and a lot of false starts too on stuff. Like
Yes. Well, I guess we should maybe back up and kind of explain like how we did it initially.
Yeah, our methodology.
Yeah, because
and you're really you're the one that pulled my attention to it.
Well, it was honestly a lot easier than I thought, but I think I had anticipated that we'd get results that were close to that, which we were far off. And obviously, they're smart to market it this way and show their best things they made with it. But
I mean, is there really a market for this yet, though? I feel like it's
I guess
still
maybe not a
infancy.
market. Yeah, it's very much like in its infancy, but at least like they're smart to put those ones as the forefront, right? And that's what you hear. And I don't know if it's necessarily on purpose. Like I'm sure they're very proud of those. Is why they want to show them off. But I don't think they're trying to shove anything under the rug. But it takes a lot to get to that point.
Oh man, it does.
And I'm sure that was made with a lot of like human reinforcement along the way, where they were like in different steps. They would like have maybe one small sample and then continue to iterate off of that. But anyway, kind of to back up a little bit.
Nothing like we got.
Yeah, we didn't get anything like that. That's, I guess, TLDR. We didn't get anything like that. So we will show you
go.
things
You can stop listening now. Please don't.
Yeah, please don't. We do have some stuff that we're going to show you. And they don't sound as good as that, but we did get some good results. And I think we're still, as we speak, have something running through the model.
I can actually check.
So I did a lot of research on this, and they actually have OpenAI has a Google Colab notebook published. And if you don't know what Google Colab is, I think Google Colab is short for Google Colaboratory, and it's free to use. It's a Google product. It's built on Jupyter Notebook. So it's basically Jupyter Notebook is an open source kernel-based Python IDE essentially. And usually if you have Jupyter Notebook, you're just going to run it locally on your machine. But if you use Google Colab, which is built on top of Jupyter Notebook with some cool kind of extra saucy features and whatnot, which is again free to use, but you run it on, all your code is running on a Google virtual machine, which is actually super cool. Like it's pretty amazing that you have access to a virtual machine through Google. So like if you're downloading any Python packages, then like it downloads to that instance of a virtual machine that you're using.
And the hardware is nicer. I mean, like they're running some really nice NVIDIA GPUs that can run CUDA. Yeah. So you can really get the powerful processing there. For those that aren't familiar with that, maybe at some point we'll talk a little bit later about processing on GPUs and why that's important. But pretty much you can you can process tasks way faster on a GPU than you can a CPU. It's set up to do a bunch of parallel things at once. I understand.
Which is really cool. And yeah, we should talk about that because I don't know as much about that as you do. I think you're more of the hardware guy.
We'll have to both research it.
Yeah. But anyway, really cool. So I found a Google Colab notebook, and I think it's made by all the OpenAI contributors.
Yeah.
And so
same team.
Yeah, like a few of the people on the team. And we pulled that up and started playing around with it, and it's not necessarily the most user-friendly. Like, it's pretty, I mean, honestly, for what it is, it's pretty user-friendly, I'd have to say, but it's still kind of like, it's hard to know what you're doing, really. There's not a ton of direction.
It's not all hand-holding. Honestly, I didn't think it was too bad.
Yeah, but it wasn't terrible. I think that it was, like, the notebook that we found, it's all, like, you have to change the code. Like, it's not just, like, drop-downs, like, a nice kind of, like, GUI to like change stuff or anyway, like to put in the lyrics that you want. Like, you have to know what you're doing with code at least a little bit, and it's in Python, so it's pretty easy to figure out.
It's also ezy to break.
Yeah, it is easy to break. Because we broke it a few times and wasted some dollars in virtual machine credits. But
a whole month's worth gone in hours.
Yeah,
that was painful.
But it wasn't terrible. So kind of, so that story really fast. Like we found one guy on I think it was like his own personal blog or Medium, and he was like a filmmaker. I don't think he really like knew exactly what he's doing, but it was cool that he was able to figure it out. And so he kind of posted a blog article about how to like change stuff in it. And so we actually used that. And like, kudos to him, because it's actually really well written, whatever, like how he wrote it and showed how to do stuff. But
his methodologies were like, it was a little really brute force, which I actually condone. I do
think
that's
too.
the way to go.
It's a good way to learn stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to break some things, right, to learn some stuff. So I'm really glad that we found that, and then we were able to use it. But in his article, he talked about how you might want to upgrade to the pro version of Google Colab, which if you upgrade, so we did. We're like, why not, right? So if you upgrade to the pro version of Google Colab, it costs $10, which isn't bad. $10 a month.
Well, that's for the pro, like the basic pro plan.
Yeah, there's like a pro plus, which is kind of a pay as you go type thing. It's like
$50, and you get like even more priority. So like they base it on priority. If you have the free tier, you get like whatever's left over, whatever's available, then that they can.
And you get slower GPUs, like slower machines,
less RAM, less VRAM, especially.
And then you have a timeout too. Like it's like 12 hours.
Yeah, it is.
Which I didn't think we would need that, but I think 12 hours. I mean, I think with the free version you're fine, but that's I was surprised by how long it took to run.
There's a few parameters you have to adjust to make sure it works, and we can talk about that. Maybe we need, like, I can pull it up and we can walk through it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'll actually create a copy of that really quick.
But the Google Colab Pro version gives you 100 compute units a month of faster GPUs, faster basically virtual machines. And we're like, oh, that's awesome. Like and they don't really give you like a reference of what that means. And I don't really know what it means. Like it's different from like a DigitalOcean droplet or whatever. It's different from like AWS credits. Like
it's all by the hour.
Yeah, it's all like different. Like some do like by a minute, hour. Anyway, I don't know a ton about cloud computing, honestly. I should learn more. But
I think it's distributed too. Like
it is distributed. Yeah.
I think you're going to talk about how like we ended up using like 100 hours worth, like, because it said hours in there, even though it said compute units.
Yeah.
But we used that all up like in much less than 100 hours.
It'll show you like how many compute units you're using per hour.
Okay, that's
but we ended up compute per hour or whatever. Yeah. So we ended up using 100 compute units, which was our monthly allotted for $10.
And honestly, the amount of processing is doing probably was close to $10 worth of electricity. I'm just kidding. I don't think it was. But
yeah,
it was a lot.
It could have been. It was a lot. Yeah.
We probably should have just minted our own NFT for like the amount of time and money.
That's true. And like, our carbon footprint of that trash song that we'll show you that we made is probably pretty bad. But
let's don't talk about that. I don't want to make enemies.
But basically, we burned through it really fast. And I was shocked. I actually like went to Reddit and was looking up Google Colab and like just details on it and what people thought about it. And there was one guy that said that he was trying to use PyTTI, which is like an open source animation generative. It's like generative animation using AI. And he used his 100 compute units in less than 6 minutes.
Gosh.
Like trying to generate something, and he was like, yeah, it's like totally, it's not a ripoff. Like it's pretty amazing what they give you for the amount. You couldn't
build a rig on your own for like, you pay so much more.
And like, it's so much lower entry. Like there's such a lower barrier of entry to trying that in Google Colab than like an AWS. Because if you're using virtual computing in AWS, you could like do something wrong and end up spending tens of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely. But not even just an AI, like there's in general.
Yeah, in general. Like you write a for loop or a while loop the wrong way and you're spending like $10,000 overnight or something. It can be crazy.
Yeah. Although it's still most affordable. Don't think that.
Yeah, if honestly, you know what you're doing, and I don't know what I'm doing with it. I've never.
Maybe we should do an episode about actually hosting on something like online, like AWS.
Yeah,
I think that'd be really cool to show people. But anyway, yeah.
So long story short, we were able to find a different not Jupyter notebook, Google Colab notebook that was like a one-click. I think that's what it's called, like one-click notebook. And we found it through a YouTube video. And it was like this German guy that I'm pretty sure he's a contributor to Jukebox AI. But he had a link to it. And so we pulled it up and it was so much better because we burned through the compute units. We ended up with a sample that was 45 seconds long. We said that we wanted an indie song that was like in the style Bob Marley. And that was the first one, and it sounded terrible, and we'll show it to you. But then we tried it again using the one-click notebook, and it worked really well. It was really cool. You don't need the pro version of Google Colab.
No.
Anyone can do this on their own. We would recommend that you find like a Raspberry Pi, or maybe do it on like a desktop computer that you can like leave running for a long time, because it'll time out.
Yeah, you want to leave your browser up. That's the thing with the non-free, like non-pro. Actually, I think like the Pro Plus tier is the only one that lets you run it in the background.
Yeah, I think so.
They kind of hide that a little bit. Honestly, most times when you're running a Colab notebook, you're not going to be running it for 12 hours at a time.
Mm-hmm. In this case, you would be if you want to.
Yeah, if you're trying to do a song, it definitely takes a long time. And and you end up with a pretty small song, but this has to generate something from scratch. And computers have not historically always been good at that. No. Especially creating something that's
especially
listenable.
It spits out a WAV file, which is basically like the closest. I wouldn't say the closest, but it's a way. I don't know a ton about like audio files, but I know that WAV is much more high fidelity than just like an MP3. Like you get a lot more, like a wider range, right? It's like a better. I could be totally wrong on this, but. So it's like uncompressed. So it's like you get like a good audio sample from it.
And there's different levels, like there's different rates, audio rates and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think these are all at 44,100.
I think that we've been talking for long enough. I think we should probably show.
Yeah, let's play. I actually have one of the songs here.
Let me first play the bad one.
Oh, I think I have that one.
Do you have it up?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, play the bad one first.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the one.
And this is after a lot of upscaling. So it actually upscales the samples of the song.
Yep. And this took, I think in total, about 9.5 hours.
On a pro level, like it ate up everything.
Yeah. And I left my laptop like up running overnight to do this. I think we
finally get something here. Sounds like a bad VHS.
It's so bad. Like, it's cool, right, that a computer can do that. Like, that's from an AI model, but at the same time, I think we could have sat like a 2-year-old in front of like a MIDI keyboard and gotten something and like just like left them for like 9 hours. Like, if you leave like a toddler with a MIDI keyboard in front of with a DAW, like right, like Logic or Ableton, and you just like let them just mash buttons, you'll get something that probably sounds more melodic and harmonic than what that was. Like,
I think we should try that.
Yeah, maybe
we should have my niece or your nephew try it,
because that I think would produce a better song. And I don't like. I think that's on our end. Like, I think it was user error. We didn't know what we were doing. We messed it up. Blew $10, just like basically essentially
we
ripped
threw
up
it in the air.
$10. Yeah.
Let it go away in the wind.
But anyway, now I think you should play the next one.
And that was also one of the more manual setup ones. I think
Yes.
there was an issue with the samples. We put too much. I think we gave it too much to work with.
Yeah, and we cut the sample down to 45 seconds, which I think was a mistake.
Yeah, we were hoping that would save us some compute units, ironically.
Yes, it did not.
So this is what I ran on the free version, and this one only took about 4 or 5 hours. I let it run overnight, and...
Much better.
Oh, Genesis Christmas.
Oh, that's right. This one has the guitar.
It's a pretty sick guitar solo. I don't know if it's Christmas, but...
Yeah, it sounds like it could be like Genesis meets
Sufjan Stevens.
Sufjan Stevens. Or like, I could see like John Wayne's Christmas song.
Yeah.
You know?
But not bad, actually. Like, I wish I'd let this run longer.
It's like it's good. It's like it's something that you could take this, sample it, and actually use it in a song.
Right there at the end's my favorite.
Try to get the lyrics in, basically. That was round 2. I think we should show
The last
one, which
this
is
one was
the
Rick
best
Astley,
one.
and I have one generating now. But
Yeah.
We'll have that ready for this. Maybe if when I'm editing this, I have it ready, I'll throw it in.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah.
Let's listen to Rick Astley.
This one is my favorite. It's good.
Indie. Stronger start for sure.
Like, I could get into this, you know?
Yeah,
it kind of sounds like post-rock. It's like...
Dude, we should do a whole post-rock album just with stuff that we sampled from.
With sampled, and then, like, ambient guitar.
Oh, yeah.
Layered on top. That would be cool. I like this, though. I don't hear Rick Astley in it. I wonder if, like, they even use the artists as seeds.
I don't know.
I wonder if it's just... We could be putting them in wrong, honestly. We found, like, the whole, like, Python dictionary list of, like... all of the different artists and genres you can put in.
We could be entering it wrong. Sometimes you have to use spaces, sometimes with underscores,
sometimes caps. It's like we didn't figure out. It's just like and that's just a simple data type error that we're probably putting in, but like it's still running, which is cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, really cool stuff. I think that. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say there's a lot more to build upon it.
Absolutely, I feel like right now it's probably something that OpenAI is not pushing a lot. Like I haven't really heard of Jukebox AI until we went out and started searching for something like that specifically. So I wonder if it's still, I'm sure it's still in early phases. It's like, still in early phases. It's in its infancy. I think it's going to get a lot better. It's not like incredible right now unless you have an insanely high, like performing supercomputer. Which is apparently what they use for the samples that they produce. And there's also options to like kind of, it's kind of like a type, like human reinforcement type thing, like where you can kind of, it'll give you like 4 different things and then you can pick the one that you want and then it'll go and then like upscale that. And then anyway, so there's ways that you can like kind of have a little bit more say in what's happening. And I think that's probably how they got those better songs. But still really impressive. And like you could take some of those clips from things that you create and actually like sample them in a song, which is really cool.
And I think we should do that eventually with the stuff we've made.
Yeah, it'd be really cool.
Yeah. It would definitely be like fresh. Like what's amazing is that there's been nothing that's existed like this before. And this even in its current state would have been unimaginable 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Just imagine where we're going to be in 10, even 5 years from now with this kind of stuff. Like it's going to open up a whole can of worms because we already have deep fakes. And honestly, I feel like this should be easier than deep fake. I just think that not as many resources have been put into it.
I think so too. I think that there's not really a market for it yet. maybe.
But imagine you could go in there as anybody. If you have the right machine or you have right access to an online VM and Google Colab or whatever, you could go in and say, I'm going to make a song by Michael Jackson. It's going to sound just like Michael Jackson, whatever I want to sing. Think about like the issues with copyright and stuff like that. Like,
I know. I would not want to be an IP attorney right now.
And I don't know how that works for voice. I know that like your likeness can be preserved. Is that part of your likeness? Like, I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because people before like people have sued in the past because like companies will make toys that look like them or whatever, or they'll use their image in some kind of media that they didn't say it. So it's a whole new wild west of content. And it's like, how do you police that?
It'll be pretty exciting. I don't know how people are going to approach that. I think that
creatively it's amazing.
It is amazing. And I think like it's going to be amazing for content creators, right? Like imagine instead of having to pay someone for their music, you just feed an AI
and let it do its thing.
And then just use the music.
Yeah.
Even like instrumental stuff, like even that, the last one that you were able to create, Rick Astley Indie, like you could use that as like the background or intro to a video. And no one would, totally. I don't think anyone would realize, maybe some people would think like, oh, this is kind of an interesting, like offbeat type song, but like,
it sounds like a broken radio.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like, or like a skipping record, you know what I mean? But it's cool.
It has charm. And there's ways that we probably could go in and clean that up. And
you could find like a perfect sample and then you could just loop it, you know what I mean?
And there's probably some AI models out there to clean up audio. Like there's all this kind of stuff out there. Like you could take something like this and actually really use it.
Yeah, totally.
To make something amazing. Well, hey, thanks, bro, for joining me. It's been awesome to have you here.
Yeah, it was fun. I feel like jumped around a bit, but thanks for listening.
Hey, that's
if you are listening, and we'll do some fun stuff like this in the future.
Totally. You know, one thing at this podcast is we like to jump around. It's really just kind of a place to geek out, nerd out, and have fun. So glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Links will be in the podcast. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's links below in the description for all the things we've talked about. We'll put a good link to a good collab there you can play with. Also,
we'll link all the sources that we took stuff from. And
and we'll actually, if I can, I'll try to host up some of the, maybe on SoundCloud or something, we'll host some of these.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, some of these song snippets we've created.
Mm-hmm.
Well, until next time, hope you have a wonderful week, and make sure to tune in again. See you next time.